The people who lived here still talk about their teams and their '84 state championship, but more than anything, they miss the town that team represented. The view from our gusty drone shows why most people moved away. The mining scars are obvious, but the real problem is the lead and other heavy metals that are in the water and the soil beneath their feet.
I love the place, don't really care for the environment.
Like many others, former Picher Mayor Sam Freeman started in the lead mines as a teenager. He followed generations of Oklahoma miners who provided the lead for 2 world wars. The work helped his family, but the mines were the death of his town. The town was dissolved when it was learned that more than a third of the children had lead poisoning. In addition, there's a constant threat of cave-ins. This is a graphic example of why it's no longer safe to live in Picher. The ceiling of a mine is caved in, dropping the soil a good 15 feet. Dirt has been falling in the hole as I've been standing here. This can happen anywhere in this area, to a home or a highway.
It scares me to drive down the streets, because I have seen one cave in when I was a kid that was just 2 houses down from my mother, and it caved in big right underneath a woman's bedroom.
We found Opal Alexander visiting family on the edge of town. She had relatives who worked in the mines, and she played on the gravel piles as a kid. She'll never forget her hometown.
It was like family. Everybody was like family. I mean, if you needed something, there was somebody here that was going to help you get it, and that's just the way it was.
While she realizes Picher is gone for good, there are plans to save this troubled land. Uncle Sam plans to return much of it to the Quapaw Nation. The tribe is already restoring some areas.
This isn't the way it should be. It should be nice, clean prairie.
Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel here to make your evil files. The Picher, Oklahoma environmental lead disaster, deep dive into this topic, capitalism, true crime, environmental racism, etc. All my other YouTube videos related to this topic right now will be linked down in the video description of this video below, and also on the screen as well if you'd like to check them out. So let's get started into this YouTube video. The town of Picher, Oklahoma on the Quapaw reservation may be the biggest environmental capitalism-caused disaster you've never even heard of. The town, in which an hour away from Walmart's home office in Bentonville, Arkansas, has been declared one of the most toxic cities in America. Mountains of contaminated capitalism mining waste pocketed with sinkholes. The Tar Creek that runs through the area is burned by acidic water seeping from the underground mining tunnels. Trees along the waterway have turned shades of orange and rusty colors near the roots, where a steady flow of chemicals have oxidized and crusted over. Picher was a boomtown around the time of World War I. That's because half the bullets fired during the war originated from lead mined in Picher, Oklahoma, and eventually the town became one of the largest exporters and producers of lead and zinc in the world. After the bombing of Pearl Harbor during World War II, patriotism surged, and so did metal mines in Picher, Oklahoma. The byproduct of extracting the lead is a chalky white grit called mine tailings or chat, and as Picher's population swelled, so did the piles of chat, some as high as 150 feet tall and 4 football fields wide. When metal mining stopped in the 1970s, the Environmental Protection Agency declared Picher, Oklahoma a superfund site. It is a name given to areas so polluted they're placed on the national priority list for a cleanup operation in 1983. The EPA declared the town uninhabitable. Many of the 14,000 residents used the chat to fill their driveways. Some even used it in their children's sandboxes for them to play with. The creeks in the Picher area that are still stained colored red from arsenic contamination were once swimming holes, and what many people and residents thought was sunburn was actually a severe chemical burn. Most, if not all, the residents were unaware of the poisoning taking place and going on. But that all changed in the mid-1990s when a school counselor learned of a link between lead and learning disabilities. Teenagers earned the nicknames Chat rats were climbing up the pillowy piles of toxic rubble throughout the town and rolling tires down their slopes. The entire school in Picher, Oklahoma sits in the middle of a toxic waste dump, and most were unaware that the students tested 46% had unsafe levels of lead in their bloodstreams. That's 11 times greater than the state average. Lead accumulates in the body over time through a process called bioaccumulation. It can't be removed, and the effects it has on the body can last a whole lifetime. And in 1994, the Indian Health Service reported that 34% of native indigenous children in the area had lead concentrations in their bloodstream well above the federal limit as well. The mining capitalism companies, they mined down in some places over 300 feet deep, and they weren't open pit mines, they were random pillar mines. The pillars were left underground to protect the miners, but when the mines began to play out, some of those pillars were mined and no record was kept of which ones, and all hell broke loose. That led to a series of collapses that occurred and continue to occur to this very day. The residents of Picher, Oklahoma were left to choose between their health and their homes while deteriorating mines threatened to swallow the streets. In less than a decade, the population dropped from 1,600 to less than 20. Picher's residents now are mostly just wildlife, but it's also a dangerous place even for biodiversity and animals. In earlier 2015, more than 1,000 migratory birds were found dead across Picher, Oklahoma, of suspected zinc poisoning. Although most of the residents left, a few lingered amid the vacant buildings and desolate roads, where trucks hauling away polluted waste are the only traffic in the areas. With no electricity, city, or police services, the town is a dark and unattended, frequently vandalized, and subjected to theft. Abandoned pets forage around the ruins. A child's teddy bear lies sprawled in a ghostly living room. A gorilla statue fronts an empty high school. The gorilla was a reference to workers in the mines who broke up the boulders with hammers. A sign proclaiming 1A football state champs 1984 was also left in this ghost town. Nobody's doing anything about the water. It's running unchecked. There's always mine water discharge coming down. It comes up from the aquifer through old boreholes, air vents, and other cracks in the surface. It used to be one area, but now the whole property's bleeding. It's just pouring into Tar Creek. Nobody's tried anywhere at all to stop that discharge. After the EPA struggled to clean up the area, in 2006 a plan was endorsed, a plan in which a trust overseen by local citizens would use federal dollars to purchase homes and businesses in the toxic region so residents could move elsewhere. Then, when the plan proved to be so problematic that it spawned more than half a dozen civil lawsuits and an audit into possible criminal wrongdoing, Pradit, as the state's attorney general, invoked an exception to state freedom of information laws to keep the audit from being an open public record. But many residents of the area who gave up their homes in a buyout they considered both coercive and corrupt continue to blame him for the fact that no one was prosecuted. They described a program so rife with good old boy corruption that certain individuals received outsized payoffs, while some homeowners got so little they couldn't even relocate anywhere nearby. Meanwhile, they said the people hired to demolish their homes received inflated contracts through a flawed process. Were lied to and deceived from day one, said Gloria Workman, who said her son had learning disabilities from growing up in the polluted zone areas of Tar Creek, which had lead poisoning levels in children that were 3 times higher than those registered in Flint, Michigan during the Flint water crisis.